Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of We Should Talk. I am Megan Walsh, your host, joined by Amber Trejo, and we are so excited. This episode, we have a super special guest. I know that you know we've been talking a lot about reality TV, and even in episode 1, we talked about how Love is Blind totally needs some therapists on staff. And lo and behold, we have a Love is Blind former cast member joining us today. In this episode, Nick Thompson from Love is Blind Chicago Season 2 shares his journey through the intense world of reality TV, the manipulation behind the scenes, and the impact on mental health. Together, we explore the concerns of reality TV production, the parasocial relationships that get formed with viewers, and the major importance on mental health awareness. Nick shares his personal journey through the trauma, resilience, and his advocacy for mental health in reality TV. So hop on in, pull up a chair, join us. You're really going to love this episode. We get into the real of reality TV. All right, you guys, welcome back to We Should Talk. I am so thrilled today because we have a very, very special guest joining Amber and I in our studio here. Today, we have Nick Thompson, who, if you are a Love is Blind fan, you might remember him from season 2, correct? Season 2 of the show. And he is here to chat with us today. Amber and I have, as you know, Amber and I have been talking a lot about reality TV. And especially last episode, we really explored just imagining the vulnerability, the intensity of what it means to be seen in this way. And And honestly, we are just so grateful and thrilled that Nick is here to talk with us more about this today from someone who literally lived it. So, Nick, thank you so much for joining us.
I am excited to be here. It's my pleasure. So, looking forward to exploring.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah,
and I wonder if before we jump into kind of our opening question for all of us, Nick, if you just want to tell us a little bit about your journey on Love is Blind and just tell us a little bit more about that story for anybody who maybe did not watch or who doesn't know the journey.
Sure, absolutely. And if you don't know, or even if you did know, you may not remember because it's been 5 years actually.
5?
Yeah,
No way.
like it's been 5 years, which is crazy when I think about it. But also at the same time, it feels like it didn't happen or it was like a whole different life. It's a very bizarre thing to reckon with.
Yeah.
But I was on Love is Blind, which for those of you that don't know, is 10 seasons in at this point. And it's a show where 15 men and 15 women date each other without seeing each other through a wall, just communicating with words. And you do that for about 10 days. And then if you connect with someone, you get engaged without seeing them. And if you both say yes, then you get to see each other for the first time. And then over the next several weeks, which is 3 to 4 weeks, you go sort of back to your regular life, which I'll use air quotes for that. And from that point, you go through life, you meet each other's friends and family, and you go on dates and experiences and ultimately end up at the altar and decide whether or not you're going to get married after that 7 to 8 week experience. For me, I went through all of that. I got engaged, went through the next 4 weeks, including a trip to Mexico. And then at the altar said, I do. Got married, went through all of the next 10 months of trying to figure out a new marriage before the show aired. And then the show airs. And then you can't leave your house without being recognized everywhere, which is a fun and, jolting experience. And then, that was my experience on the show. And then we did a follow-up. We filmed the reunion shortly after the show started airing. And then we did a follow-up few episodes, which they don't do anymore, which was called After the Altar. So we did, there was 3, I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was 3 weeks of filming again for 3 additional episodes. And then my marriage didn't work out. And I got to go through the experience of a very public. Divorce. Yeah.
Boy.
Which is it's a fun time, I would say, me being sarcastic and avoidant.
Right, correct.
Well, and it sounds like you had to go through it right around the time. Was it right around the time then that the show was coming out and all of that? Or how soon after the show came out did the divorce happen?
So we got married in June of 2021. The show came out in February of 2022, and it airs, I think it airs like roughly 3 weeks. It's so different now. It's like hard to keep track of when did ours airs versus how did the new ones air. It's a little bit different, I think. And then you go back and you film the reunion episode, which was a whole different experience. And then that comes out a week after the show finishes airing. And then because we did After the Altar, that was scheduled to come out that fall. So my divorce, which, you know, part of the additional stress of it was that divorce was publicized right around the time that those new episodes were coming out. So it's like the little bit of reprieve you get from 5 months of the show being out, it's like amplified and then amplified again.
So I have to know, are you feeling triggered at all right now with all the Summer House stuff that's coming out?
Yeah, man.
That's how we got here. Yeah, we were talking about Summer House. That's how we invited you on to hear from somebody who's actually been on reality TV.
Yes.
I look at it, I have such a different, I thought I had a healthy relationship with reality TV varying times, and I just don't. I just look at it, I'm like, I don't get it anymore. It's so crazy.
It is.
And I think that's, you know, that's part of the challenges that I see, which, you know, I started the You Can Foundation, which we can talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that has been so eye-opening to me in all of this is the escalation path, right? And it's like,
yes.
You start with these shows, and you know they started, you can trace them back to the 80s really, and you look at things like Jerry Springer and Cops, like those were the OG
I
reality
loved
shows.
all of those.
Yeah, well, you like to watch people's messiness.
Yes.
And you look at it and you're like, well, my life sucks in ABC way, but at least I'm not getting arrested outside of a White Hen for stealing cigs.
So true. Yes. I always felt so much better about my life. Going through trauma.
So
like, these people are really going through trauma right now.
At least
Okay.
it's not me. Yeah.
Yes.
That's so true.
That is so true. I love that you named that, because I wouldn't have even like thought about that as something that is a thing, but you're so right, that escalation path.
Yeah. And
so
when you
true.
look at it and you look at some of these shows, and there's a lot of spotlight coming on some of the shows like America's Next Top Model, which just had the documentary come out. And now Tyra Banks is suing. I mean, you're starting to see the cracks in the foundation, and it's from these escalations. And, you know, you're at the point now where I look at the stuff that happened on like season 2 of Love is Blind, which was an insane escalation from season 1 of Love is Blind. And then you look at some of the stuff that happens in these later seasons, and I'm like, are we like, is this even real?
Yeah.
It's just, but the audiences would get probably bored. And I don't think that. I think people would be engaged in a different way if we were doing things a little more authentically and a little, you know, more protective. But the escalatory path of these shows is just totally insane.
Yeah. And I'm so curious, how much of it would you say, and I'll curious in your experience, how much is it is like producers trying to curate these moments or situations that become escalated and obviously lead to more controversy, more eyes on the show, more money, I'm sure. I'm curious what that was like for you in terms of like producer in.
It was interesting. So in general, and I've talked to hundreds of cast members, tons of producers, like there's storylines that they're driving to that you don't know about as a cast member. And when I look at what happened in real time and how I felt and what was going on, and I look back with the eyes of, I talked to a producer that worked on our show, and he said, yeah, it was my job to track your storyline and make notes of points that we wanted to include and not include so that we gave a cohesive storyline to the editors to edit to. Or I had a former Bachelor producer on my podcast, Michael Carroll, and he's been vocal about his time on The Bachelor and how they would have archetypes of people, and they had like lines of like, well, this person's, you know, just the right amount of like Bachelor crazy, where like we can push them and they'll do crazy things, but we won't mentally break them that harm comes to someone. And so like these are the ways that they're thinking about things. And when I look back on my experience, and when I went into it, I went through probably, 5 months of audition process, and they recruited me. And I just remember telling them, I'm like, listen, like I'm pretty strong-willed. I'm a Taurus for starters, so I'm born stubborn. Number two, like I know who I am, and I don't say and do things out of character. So if you want me to do something that I don't want to do, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say it. And that's just how it's going to go. And so I kept thinking like they would never pick someone like me. And I can I can prove it too. Like you can get it in conversations with me. I'm not someone who I can have my mind changed through like thoughtful discussion, but you're not going to have me say something to someone or about someone that I wouldn't say to their face or ask them to their face. I think you saw some of that in the show, if you remember watching it. But from my perspective at the time, I was very aware of like the ways that they would manipulate you and the ways they would try to get you to say certain things. I didn't have a full understanding of, and I understand editing and how editing is used. I didn't understand that there was like no rules with it. So I remember thinking, well, I wouldn't say or do something that I wouldn't say or do in real life. So I got nothing to worry about. Wrong. Right. They will take something that you say in a total different scene and apply it to a total different scene, move the camera behind you so you don't see your mouth, and then have that be what you see on the screen. And then they cut to the reaction of the person, for example, on the other side of the wall in the pods, and they're reacting to something somebody else said. But now they've just created a little bit of a funny drama moment where so-and-so is now, misogynist or, is crazy obsessive on the other side, whatever that is. And so I was cognizant of that. But what I wasn't of is like how the whole environment is set up to be manipulative. So when you are there, and again, like I didn't say or do anything out of character. Throughout this whole process, it's one thing I'm super proud of is like, I don't look back on anything, even at my worst times, and think that I acted, poorly. And so when I was there and we were going through it, at first, my ex-wife and I connected relatively quickly, like right away. In the first date we had, that was 7 minutes speed dating. We connected right away. By day 3 or 4, we had a conversation where we're like, yeah, we're only interested in each other. We have to keep dating other people, but we're only interested in each other. And at that point, I remember like, I wasn't even talking to my producer because everybody gets a producer of your own and they have like 3 people. And so I'm like, I'm not even talking to my producer anymore. And at one point I went up to her and I'm like, am I doing this right? Like, and she's like, no, you're doing it exactly how you're supposed to do it. And so I found out after the fact, once we got engaged and we went to Mexico for our trip before coming back home, when we got to Mexico, a new producer who hadn't worked on the show to this point was assigned to us, and he was pulled off of another show to come and produce our relationship. So he hadn't seen any of our engagements or observed us the way that her producer and my producer have. And so from there, our entire experience and relationship changed. He was producing it in a different way, and found out after the fact, our producers got together and were like, they're doing this right. Let's, help them if they need help or something, but like, let's just let them connect. And he wanted to tell a story that was very, like, when I look back, very obvious, the story they were trying to tell, and it wasn't really there, but what
was the story that they were trying to tell?
So I believe they were trying to tell the story that I was a little bit older, which was like 4 years older. And I was mature and stoic and all of these things. And I didn't know how to have fun or be loose or anything like that. And that she was someone who liked to dress up in costumes and have parties and all of these things. The irony of that is like I threw themed parties since I was like 25 years old. So it was just, and they were trying to like force. So we had this whole like tongue-in-cheek conversation where we were in costumes at one point, and then they added dramatic music. And then when we cut, or so I thought, and I got up and I took the costume off because I was sweating and it was hot, and they made it look like I got up and walked away from the conversation. And so it's like those little things that they're doing there.
I do kind of remember that. Now I almost want to watch season 2 back just to like catch those things, but I do feel like it always, in Love is Blind in general, it usually starts to take a turn for the worst around Mexico, so I could see that as somebody who's watching it, not even really be thinking that that's intentional, but I think that's very interesting because, of course, like they're wanting it to be juicy, right? Like if everything is just like you guys are getting along and you're enjoying this vacation, that's not super fun to watch. So they have to figure out what is the storyline going to be, And so that's very interesting that they were portraying you in that way.
They do follow, like, so I'm a storyteller, and I say that, but like I actually, like, I'm a writer. I do marketing. Like, my whole background is how to storytell with marketing, and there's points you hit, and they hit the points. They make you buy into a relationship or question a relationship. Then they get you that moment of what's the drama of them seeing each other for the first time, and then they put you into a conflict, right? And then they take that conflict and they draw it out through the show. Is the couple's the hero? Are they going to overcome the conflict and get the happy ending, right?
Right. And so true. So true.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's totally
platform,
how they do it. Yeah.
And so I'm so curious, were you aware of your storyline and like key conflict as you went from Mexico back to Chicago?
So we had a pretty well documented and publicized incident in Mexico, which I don't need to get into too deeply, but essentially it was COVID at the time. There were lots of protocols. And so Danielle was sick one morning and threw up, and then they COVID tested her. She was negative. Protocol, that was a symptom. She wasn't allowed to film that day, even though we filmed earlier that day. It was very bizarre. And then they made the decision that the couple's party, I had to go by myself. And I said, well, I'm not going without her. And so, we'll just skip it. And then they convinced us that if no one was representing the couple, it would look really, really bad. And so we decided I would go for a little bit, say hi to everyone, and then that would be it. While I was away, she had a panic attack, which is her story. You can go listen to her tell it, which is, it's just awful. And nobody told me, nobody came and got me, despite what they say. There was no therapist there or psychologist there to help work through it. So she panicked. And by the way, like, we had asked, and I even asked, I was like, can you send, there was a producer she really liked and trusted. And I was like, can you send so-and-so to sit outside the door in case she, you're alone, you don't have access to anything. She's just going to be sitting there thinking about all of this stuff. Yeah. And so they didn't do that. And then, after maybe 2 hours or so, I come back and they don't tell me. They're like, go in. Danielle's on the end of the bed. We're filming from outside, not even filming because of the COVID stuff, right? They couldn't come in the room or whatever. So they're like, you're mic'd, stay close enough to her so we can pick up the sound on both of yours. And so I'm like, okay. And she's like, go talk about what happened at the couple's reveal party. I'm like, okay. So I go in there, I sit down. I'm like, you're not going to believe this, and this. And, I'm telling her about it, and she's just not there. And I'm like, something's off. And so we got into an argument that was really like not an argument with each other, but an argument with them for putting us in this situation. And I like got up and I like took my mic off and I threw it and I said, we're done and we're leaving when she told me what happened. And that was a big scuffle, and everything after that changed because now they knew. And so no matter what we may have experienced or what our relationship was like in the pods, which was, we were very good at communicating, very good at all of that. And then it just, from there, this new producer, I would argue, knew how to push buttons and knew how to set up scenarios of conflict and what that looked like. And they had, to the point of the whole storyline, like, we had full scenes where we met each other's friends. And one of the conflicts that they were trying to brew up was that, me and my friends were more mature and her friends were young and immature, and everyone got along great. We ended up taking a trip together after the show, her friends and my friend. Like, it was just, so they just didn't air those scenes. Right. So it's just, they know, and then they know the situations to put you in, they know your triggers and how to play your buttons. And they're trying to tell that story, and you see it throughout.
And I just want to name this too, because I think that something that happens as someone who consumes a lot of reality TV is we forget that these are actual human beings a lot of the time, right? And so while these storylines are so interesting, and so, oh my gosh, I got to see what happens next, or I hate this person, or I love this person, and I feel like I know this person, or a lot of times they even feel like celebrities, right? Like when you see them in real life and stuff, it's like, oh my gosh, like I remember when you reached out to me, Nick, I was like, oh my gosh, Nick from season 2, Love is Blind, reached out to me on Instagram, and it was like, you feel like they're celebrities and you forget that they're real human beings and how much psychological distress that has got to cause someone when your whole reality is being manipulated and, you're trying to start this new relationship, which in and of itself is so scary. And there's so many different things going on that level.
You have to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a whole nother. So it's almost like, how do people expect? It's like they don't actually expect these couples to work out or to last, right? It's just really all for entertainment purposes.
And I think, the parasocial relationship, which I'm just starting to learn about, read about, and I'm going to do something on my podcast about it. I'm not sure what yet, but to me, that parasocial relationship was the thing that I didn't anticipate at all. And when you look at it that way, and people people root for you. I can't tell you how many people were genuinely rooting for us, but it fades. The seasons keep coming. People actually have lives outside of reality TV. But, and I think that most people do pull for it, especially on Love is Blind, and maybe not now. I think the chatter online has changed, but back at my time, people were excited because season 1 was so different than most dating shows. And that's why I even decided to do it, because I thought it was so different. And then season 2, people were hoping. And now, even looking back on it, it's like, man, that was a messy season of television. And I think people do get invested, but like everything else, out of sight, out of mind, which is totally fine. So I just think what I would like is for people to watch it more as entertainment and less as real life, because we do have real lives. And that was the hardest thing for me. And someone actually asked me on my podcast, he's like, what is it like being known for your relationship when you're a nuanced individual with all these years of life experiences? And things I care about. And Amber, we connected over this a little bit too, but anytime I post anything about politics, which by the way, I'm an activist, I've been involved in politics since 2008. Right. And so, and I was a journalist in high school and college. I love this stuff. And anytime I talk about it, stay in your lane, reality star. Nobody cares what you think about
100%. Yeah.
And it's wait a minute, this is part of who I am. And just because you didn't get to see this on TV, I got one line where I said I was talking to someone about capitalism. Otherwise they said, we don't want you to talk about this.
Oh my gosh.
So
and that's what I was going to say. Sorry, I have to just say this because I was thinking about that too, is that they didn't even show those sides of you, right? And they don't show so many very sides. So it's supposed to be this reality TV, but it's so not. It's so far from who you guys actually are,
And I was so curious.
A small segment.
Yeah, because I noticed I would feel so angry, right? I would feel so angry at that. This narrative is being driven about you, and it's it is so public and going to so many people, right? That you couldn't possibly call all of them up and be like, hey, wait, no, this is really me. This is who I am. How was that for you emotionally, especially as it was happening, especially as the storyline is getting driven, and I'm sure people in your life are maybe asking you about it and have a lot of comments and feedback. What was that like for you?
It was. When it came out, I was we were our relationship, we were working on our relationship very, very hard. This is just a whole nother level of commentary and thoughts you don't expect. And the thing people don't understand that I've learned about reality TV post experience on Love is Blind is that it isn't just what's on TV. It is for some people, but the people that watch it and then turn it off and don't think about it until they watch it again, that's a different breed than the online breed. The online breed of people that watch it. There is commentary on it. There's podcasts on it. There's therapists, psychologists weighing in on it. And then there's their followers that are flocking to them in an echo chamber. And then I would argue, and I've had some on, that I've talked to about this, I would argue therapists need to be careful what they do there because they are in a position of authority, which you guys know.
So true.
And then when you're commentating on a relationship that is highly edited and highly narrated in a way that may not be accurate, you kind of should take responsibility to make sure you're not using your expertise based on false information that's then feeding your followers to come and behave on social media in a certain way. on Reddit
That's such
in
a
certain
good
way.
point. Yeah, that's
and
such
so
a
there's
good
layers to it. There's the commentary, there's the podcast, and there's the commentators on that comment on the commentary, and then it's like you go down to the lowest common form of horrible content creation, and it's just these stories that are expanding far beyond what has happened on the screen. And the rumors and the narratives. And I was subject to a narrative that started on Reddit because someone saw me out at brunch with my friend who was visiting from England, and two of my other friends started a rumor, because this was right after my divorce, started a rumor that caught fire that I must have had an affair.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm like, my friend from England's getting attacked on social media for this, which is funny because you go and you search throughout my social media and you'll see we've been friends for like 12 years, 13 years at this point. And so it's just the internet and the way people interact about this stuff. Right. And again, the parasocial relationships, those are the part that like you can't prepare for and you can't understand, because it's like, that's not me. And if anyone's ever felt someone, whether it's at work, a friend, an ex, someone who's like, they just didn't get me, or they didn't see me, or they didn't understand me. Yeah. That's what it's like times a million, because you have millions of people that know who you are and are watching you and are commenting on your relationship, commenting on your social media posts. I mean, in my case, commenting on, my politics. Like, I talk about politics objectively as an example. I've got people that I'm a Trumper, I'm a libtard. I mean, it's like the comments
I get
are still to this day get them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it kind of makes me think, sorry, Megan, I know you're about to say something, but I was just thinking, like, you guys are celebrities to so many people. Everybody knows you. Everybody feels they have a right to all the information about your life. And yet you're not getting any of the other benefit of like celebrity. Like, you're not making millions of dollars. Like, you are not, able to go and make a movie. I'm not saying celebrities totally do have luxurious lives. What am I talking about? Like, you're not able to like make a movie. Like, you have to live a regular life with everyone at the same time thinking they own everything that you do and have a right to say something about everything that you do.
Yeah. And I think that is a common misconception. And I make the joke for years now, it's probably not funny anymore, but there's no Netflix Brinks truck that drops a bag off every week at my house. There's no residuals. People are going to watch this online forever. Yeah. And I made $1,000 a week. I've documented that while we were filming, while I took 3 weeks away from my job and slacked off the next 4 weeks while we were filming, back at home. And so like there's things there where, I made $10,000 total from the whole thing.
Whoa.
And I got to do, and by the way, my math that I did and the study that I did, they made almost $100 million just from season 2.
Whoa. Thank you so much for sharing. This was one of my questions I was really wanting to ask, but I didn't want to, because it was like, I don't want to push too hard about how much you made from it, but I'm so curious. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's crazy.
That's wild. Yeah.
Well, they sell you, and I didn't do it for money. So like, I knew that part of it. That didn't bother me. I had my job. I was able to take the time off. I didn't do it for the, to get 15 minutes. I thought the experiment would work, could work. Right. Mm-hmm. And that I thought the idea of it, and they, by the way, throughout the casting process, they sell you on what you want to be sold on. They are like used car sales people, right? They knew that I had my life together and I was looking for someone to share it with. And then they knew other people were there for 15 minutes. And so the idea is that you'll get all of these opportunities after. You'll get brand deals. You'll get to make your money doing other shows, all of these different things, because, you're going to be this and you're going to be that, which again, I didn't have that intention or have that plan. And I think anybody that's followed me all along will know that, because I turned down hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff that wasn't in alignment with me.
Wow.
But, a lot of people can do that stuff and maybe have a different set of values than I do, which is totally fine. But the money's not there for everyone. It's there for some people. And I can tell you, ironically, I did get to executive produce a movie about reality TV,
Cool.
but I didn't.
Awesome.
I didn't take any money from that. What we did was I executive produced, and then we did fundraising for the foundation on the back end with it.
That's awesome. Great. What's the name of the movie?
The movie is called Him, and it's not the football one. It's the other one.
Okay.
Okay.
So the plot of the movie,
I want to watch
on
that.
Amazon. Yeah, you can get on Amazon. Cool. It's a couple bucks to rent, a couple more to buy. Basically, the story follows a group of women who are in a house in a bachelorette-like show, and they're all competing for the love of one guy. And surprise, surprise, nothing is as it seems.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it was made by two people who really love reality TV and really want it to be made ethically, and had some very the reason I agreed to join was I saw the script and I thought, you know what, this is actually like positive commentary, and it's done in a way that can reach a group of people that maybe doesn't want to hear me talk about labor rights.
Yes. You know, I would love to hear too, Nick, about what happened to you mental health wise, because I did just see your post recently on Instagram too about how you really struggled with your mental health right after the show. Can you share with us a little bit about how that, like, what that journey was like for you, and then how that ultimately lead to the foundation, the creation of the foundation?
Yeah, so I struggle with my mental health. I remember being like 5, 6 years old and struggling, which was around the time that my parents separated and eventually got divorced. And I was the oldest. I felt lonely a lot. My sisters had each other, and I didn't know what these feelings were until I got to high school, because I actually went to a Catholic school from 2nd grade to 8th grade. And, you trust in God, you go to confession, and you better hit church every Sunday or you're not getting into heaven.
Right.
And that was kind of like the way I was brought up. And going to a public high school, things changed for me because I met people that openly talked about having anxiety or feeling depressed and all these things. And I went through it, and it wasn't something that I felt in my life, even though I thought maybe I was experiencing this, something in my life that I could ever talk about or bring, into my life. And this went on into my 20s. And when I was 21, I saw a therapist at the community center that was like, free, and I did it secretly. And I had no idea what it was going to be like or what to expect. I saw her probably six months or so, and I just wasn't ready. Like I was too young. I was unsure of it. I didn't really understand how it was going to work or do anything. I thought everything happened in the session, which we all know that's not the case. It's what you do outside of it.
Right.
And so, I kind of I like to meander in my 20s and, struggle with depression and withdrawal and loneliness. And I isolate myself when I get really depressed. And that's something I still fight today when I feel that way. And so, I finally started opening up very high level to a couple of friends when I started going to therapy around 30 years old again. And so I started sharing, just very high level things that I was like trying to do and trying to accomplish, or how I was feeling about certain things. And then again, it wasn't something I talked about a lot. We talked about it a little bit in the pods, and I talked about what I now know is CBT, about how like I learned to reframe some of my negative thoughts and stuff like that. And so that was the first time that I'd like thought, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, well, I'm talking about like the positive benefits of this. This could be on TV. Who knows? And then once the marriage happened and the show was gone, and like we're trying to figure out how to be in a relationship without producers telling us where to go, what to do, what to talk about all the time. And then like you have expectations, right? Where it's like you get married, then you live together if you don't already. And then, you do these things together and you do these things together. So I started like really struggling, because when I went into the show, and I was in the best mental space that I had been in. I survived COVID, learned a lot about myself during that time, built on my previous relationships. I recognized like a lot of patterns. I recognized my negative behavior, and I was like ready to go into this, at my best self. And I just felt like the pressure, there was so much, it started to like chip away at that time at my stability, I would say, almost, because there's the pressure of the show coming, the pressure of a new marriage, not really knowing how to do it, not really having baseline, like, what do we do on a Friday night? What happens when we go out? What happens when we stay in? When should we move in together?
Right.
You know, like, should we move in together? Should we step back and just date slow? And then, of course, everybody's in your life has opinions on this, you know,
Absolutely.
and some were better than others. And some were like, you guys aren't living together. And it's like, would you live together with someone that you met 8 weeks ago? Yeah. And so I could feel during that time it chip away. And then the show came out and we were struggling in our relationship and the pressure of all of that. And that was kind of when I started feeling like I was going through the motions. And this is how I used to feel, where I would be like, life is happening to me and I'm not an active participant in it. And I just was like feeling this, you know, in 2022, after the show came out, I'm like, man, I'm not like in charge anymore of I don't have any autonomy. And I'm like, but I do have autonomy. And I'm like, and I know these things. And so I remember I got served my divorce papers. I wasn't really expecting it. And I was just, after that, I was kind of froze, like flight or freeze, froze.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell anyone. I think that happened on like a Thursday. And then TMZ leaked it a couple days later. And I wake up on Sunday morning to my mom, missed calls from my mom who saw it on TMZ before I told her. Yeah.
Goodness.
And that was when I started spiraling. There were a lot of things being said about me that weren't true. A lot of them made by my ex, which was the hurtful part, because I genuinely don't really care what people think about me, because I know that I'm doing the best I can and always try to do the right thing. But like, it hurt because she said some things that weren't true. And, you know, we have since talked, made up, and are at peace. So, you know, I hold no grudge or resentment there. And, you know, I wish her happiness and health and everything. But it was like the worst time. And this is what I decided to share for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, because I never really talked about it, but I had like my first panic attack. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was having a heart attack. And I was just walking down the street and I started gagging. And I was like, what is this? And then it happened right there. And I had to sit down. I really, like, my chest, I didn't know what was happening. And I wasn't sure if I should go to the hospital or what. And so once I figured out what was going on there, and I actually was able to meet that day with my therapist, which, you know, God bless her. And I told her she should just write a book about me throughout all of this. And that was really, really rough. And then a few weeks after the divorce, I lost my job, where I was a VP of marketing at a software company. And that was also a shock. Like, I woke up one morning and had a text from my boss that was like, hey, I need to talk to you before, I think it was 8. And it was just one thing after another. And I actually had a second panic attack around that time. And then,
not surprised.
Yeah, I was just like, I can't believe this. And as I was getting towards the end of the year, I was Christmas at this time. So it was like November is the layoff. And then getting towards the end of the year, Dr. Isabel Morley, who ended up co-founding the UCAN Foundation, she's a psychologist and writer for Psychology Today outside of Boston. She reached out to me and was doing a story about the abuse she was seeing on Love is Blind and wanted to know if I'd be open to talk. And we talked, I think it was 2 days in a row for several hours. And I should probably, I mean, we work on the foundation, we talk all the time, but like, she was pulled out of me everything from beginning to end in a way that, like, I hadn't processed any of it, because I was just going through the motions. And I was at this point now where people would be like, hey, do you want to go to dinner tonight? I'm like, I got to get to the afternoon before I can decide if I want to get dinner tonight. And so it was it was moment by moment, day by day at that point. And when I got through all of this and I sat there, and it was December 23rd, 2022. And I sat there and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this was supposed to be the best year of my life. This was supposed to be an experience that helped me, you know, meet someone and start the life that I wanted. And now I've lost that. I've lost my job. I could, you know, eventually lose my house, like all of these things. And I was like, all because, and I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
That was the point. I didn't do anything wrong.
No.
And so I was at my absolute worst over the holidays. I deleted social media off my phone for like 2 weeks. And I was like, I have to figure out what the hell I'm going to do, because I can't live the way I've been feeling. And once I got all of it out, it was good in a good way, but also it drummed the whole thing up because I had just been processing each day as it comes the best I could.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
And so over the next several months, I really honed in on like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I want to be? I don't really care about this social media. I don't care about influencing. I had started my podcast earlier that year. I like doing that. I'm going to keep doing that. Right. So I'm going to keep doing my podcast. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to keep looking for a job because I don't even know if I want to keep doing this because I've been laid off 3 times. Tech sucks.
Yeah. Right.
And so I was just going through these dark times. And I felt so alone. Like I remember feeling so alone growing up. And as a teenager, this was like so isolating because people didn't understand.
Yeah.
And they saw it on TV. So there was part of them that didn't think it was real. And I would get so much of, well, this is for the best. You two weren't compatible. You two weren't right for each other. You went in, you did the best you could, all of this stuff. And it's like, well, that's not what I need to hear.
It's not meeting you where you are. Exactly. Like it's not sitting with you in the pain. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it was rough for several months. And I had several times where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like life. I don't want to do life anymore.
Yep.
And that's the stuff I talked about a little bit on my own podcast. But one of the things that defines me is I feel like someone should say something when something is wrong or something needs to get done. I don't want to be that person. I kind of want to just be by myself and be in peace. But I also, if someone doesn't say something, I'll say something. I, end up group leader of projects in school with this mentality. I stand up in several different areas of my life. I stand up and say something when it isn't popular and I take the bullets because someone else can't. And so I even say, going through the whole Love is Blind thing and being defamed and being smeared in the media for all of these things and being taken out of context and all the stuff on Reddit and all of these things. It was so hard. And I learned in therapy how to not be reactive, how to be responsive. But I stayed true to myself that whole time. And so as I was going through this, I was like, you should be proud of that.
Yeah.
Because I was offered money to go on shows and like expose this stuff, like different things and I just didn't want to do that, to give exclusive interviews for this and that. I didn't want to do that. And when I look back, I was like, you stayed true and kept your integrity the whole time and you're still here. And that's resilience. So you can handle this, you can handle anything. And then what are you going to do about it? And so for me to like right the wrong that I felt was done, and I didn't get support from anything on the show. Like we tried to get couples counseling from them, not even to pay for it. Like we'd pay for it. We couldn't
you would
find
think
someone.
that should be in the budget. Like,
because they don't want that because that won't be helpful to their storylines. But that's exactly what Megan and I were saying. We're like, oh my gosh, we need to get
pod. You need a therapist pod.
Yes.
Seriously.
To go into.
And I'd like to talk a minute about that too, because when I decided, I'm like, well, you got to do something. So I co-found the You Can Foundation, which is the Unscripted Cast Advocacy Network. We're a nonprofit, and the goal of the organization is threefold. One, we want to make sure that there's mental health services available for cast members before, during, and after production that are unassociated with the production.
The show.
Because there's a whole ethical dilemma of if the show is paying you, who's your client? Who are you advocating for?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So true.
And then
I love
number
that.
2, thank you. Number 2, legal support, because those contracts are very one-sided. And even though you read them and you think you understand them, and now you can put them in ChatGPT and understand them, and you don't. Like they own you. They own you for 5 years. And so in mine. And so I bucked the trend and broke the contract because I thought it was illegal and I'd be protected under some of the things that, we have labor wise, but like they have you on lockdown. You can't go against the edit. They can fine you up to $1 million. You can't talk about behind the scenes stuff. You can't use the show to promote yourself. Like all of these things for the first year, you can't go. Like first year, I would have had to have permission to come and be interviewed by you guys.
Whoa.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah. And so
that's crazy.
The legal side of it, and then advocate for change in the industry. And one of the things that I think is, and this has been very difficult on very many levels, because we're a nonprofit, and they have, I've gotten cease and desists. I mean, we've had people come to us that were sued for millions of dollars that we've helped get attorneys to fight back. And, all of these things that they do that don't get the same attention as the show and the drama, right? And so it's very one-sided. And right now, I think that the ethical dilemma between therapists and psychologists and reality TV needs to be addressed from like a code of ethics perspective. And so, one of the things that I'm advocating for is an update to the code of ethics, which I'm working on with Dr. Isabel Morley, who co-founded the foundation with me, the one who did that interview, on what codes can we get the APA and the ACA to include in their code of ethics regarding reality TV participation as both a character on the show and as someone who's doing a psych evaluation or working on the set. And I believe that the best way forward on that is get codes of ethics, obviously there, but also therapists need to be independent of production
of the show.
And and so what I compare it to, because people's like, oh, how will that work? Well, the show can pay a third party to provide that, and they can pay the therapist. There's things like that. But if you think about, look at the NFL, what was it? 7 years ago, team doctors would clear Tom Brady of a concussion or not.
Right.
It's the Super Bowl, right? No, Tom Brady, go in, you're fine. But he probably had a concussion. Now they have independent neurologists that do the evaluation that don't have an affiliation to the team. So they make the determination outside of someone who's invested in and paid for by the team. So things like that, there's precedence for them. And I think if we want actual ethical mental health services related to reality TV, we have to have third parties involved, and we have to have codes of ethics that reflect the current state of participation.
Yeah. Wow. That is, such an important point.
Absolutely.
And it's incredible that you have this foundation and are doing this work, because again, reality TV, right? This is everywhere, and it's probably only, given social media, it's just going to keep growing and keep expanding. And this is such a deep, deep need that is there. And so props to you for
and you're the first person that I've heard really bring this to light. And so it's actually caused me to just reflect a lot in my own experience of reality TV as someone who's, watched it for so many years. Being 6 and watching Maury Povich, right? I feel like we grew up, and then seeing how those people were traumatized and their whole lives exposed, and just thinking of the psychological harm and damage that can really be done.
Yeah. I think we have some, and I appreciate you saying that. And, to sum up that whole thing is I was at rock bottom when I decided to launch this, and this was the only thing that kind of lit me up in any way. Yeah. And I do, as much as I want to live my peaceful, quiet life. I like taking on the man. I like taking on the, I like that. So there was a little someone who felt very dead inside. And so I was I'm going to just take this. I've got nothing to lose. What are you going to, I don't have a job. What are you going to sue me for? Fine,
exactly.
I'll pay you $1 million. Sure.
Yes.
So it was.
And I love how this is so inherently you, the you that you've described even before going on the show, right? The one that's going to speak your mind, right? You're going to stand up for anything that you see that is not okay. And so it's very cool that thread followed through to here. Truly.
Thank you. And I just think people, I think 95% of people that watch reality TV don't have ill intent or a bad heart, or even if they've maybe reacted online or said something. And, I've gotten DMs from people that I've responded to, and they're like, I didn't know you actually read these. I'm sorry. It's I don't read all of them, but I read a lot of them. And sometimes I respond because I just think people don't have the reflectiveness, and the internet doesn't give you that space to stop for a second. You can just keyboard it out.
Right. They think you're just something to project onto.
Yes.
Exactly. And I hope people just, when you're watching these shows, as I think you've both said, watch it with the view of you're watching curated content that is designed to tell a story and a narrative, that is designed to trigger different people and emotions from the audience. And that these people have real lives, they have real jobs, they have real families, they have real kids in some cases. And what you're seeing there, even if it's toxic and it's bad behavior, show them some grace. And I'm not saying you have to like them, but that pressure cooker environment makes people do things and say things that they wouldn't say or do under different circumstances. And even if they would, and even if they're a terrible person, just opt out of commenting, right? So I encourage people to watch this, sort of cautiously and with the filter of it being entertainment. And then ask yourself at the same time, which is something I've started really thinking about a lot of things in reality TV and in the world, is like, are we really going to do this to people, to psychologically harm people, to physically harm people, to emotionally traumatize them for our entertainment?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Is that who we want to be? Is that who you want to be? So just watch it cautiously, watch it for entertainment. And then when there's a moment to maybe help someone else see it through that lens, take that moment. And that's what you can do. Take that moment and teach them.
Oh, it's such a good point. And like such a big aha, I think, for everybody who, especially knowing how we even fall into it. There's this like connection factor too of, everybody's talking about Summer House. Everybody's talking about Real Housewives. Everybody's talking about the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, right? Everybody's talking about all these things. So there's a way to connect, right? But of course, as we know, that anyone who connects over like a shared criticism or hatred of someone else, it's not a real connection, right? That's not a quality, meaningful connection. It's actually a very superficial one. So I think for all of us to really, really be thinking about that.
That's a great point. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, take it.
Yeah. It's almost like we're triangulating some of these reality TV stars so that our relationships and our situations can feel better. Like if we can kind of gang up on these people that we hate that are doing these bad things, because we're never like that, right? Which all of us are, all of us have that, especially with bad edit, like especially when the editing is trying to make that a thing, but I see it a lot. I feel like this a lot when I watch, but I can't, that's the other thing is like, I still want to consume it. I'm still intrigued, but I think of that a lot when I watch The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, just because you see so much right there, some of the psychological distress happening in such real time that it's almost like feels hard to watch. Like, oh, please stop doing this to these women,
And I don't think people should, I'm not advocating for people to stop watching. I don't want reality TV to go away. I just don't want people to be harmed in the making of reality TV.
Yes,
and I think
that.
To your point, Amber, I look at, and I covered on my my show, the Taylor Frankie Paul, several steps of that. And I purposely said, I'm not showing the video. You can go see the video somewhere else. Because as much as that is horrifying, and that whole situation is horrifying. Like the fact that she was in distress and struggling in a position where she was behaving that way in front of her children and her partner. And again, who knows what he's like? I have no idea. I'm not here to judge him either. Yeah. But when I look at that and I'm like, this was exploited for whatever season came after that, where they started with that, the aftermath of that in the season. And then followed throughout the season while she is clearly in distress and unwell. And then ABC, knowing all of this and all of these court filings and all of the open cases, casted her as the Bachelorette.
I know, that was also
it's all public information. Right. And then we're going to go through with it until that video came out and the public backlash was too hard. And now they're probably going to air it anyway. Because it's died down, and that's the rumor. The rumor coming out of, I think it was Reality Steve that first broke that there. Who else would it be, right?
Yeah, of course.
But and now I'm just like, man, and I feel for her and him, and the children are going to see that. Kids they go to school with are going to see that, and they're going to have be traumatized from that.
Yeah, and that comes up a lot for me because I did see the video, and what comes up for me specifically with the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, I always think of the kids. Like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you have so many different layers of trauma going on in all of their lives, right? Like several of them have sexual abuse. They all have religious trauma. They're all, they all definitely have been through so many things, and they're real people. They have children, and wow, it just, go Go ahead,
That
Nick.
is so true. And I didn't even think about it, but those kids can't give informed consent. And who
Exactly.
and the parent
Yeah.
who's also unwell is the one giving consent.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then they rope you.
That.
And I know that they do this. I don't have any, of course, I have no personal experience with it, but I heard it about Vanderpump Rules, how they'll like try to convince you after you have like a really bad season where they've edited you really badly or you've done some really crazy things. They will like do almost whatever it takes to like get you back in, like to get you back in the show. And then your life's already kind of exposed, messed up. Like you don't have a ton of other options. So I feel like you also kind of get trapped into this situation where you have to keep coming back.
Well, that's very true, by the way, and that was my experience because we didn't want to film after the altar, after the show came out, and again, like I don't think our relationship was presented accurately, but I don't think I got a bad edit per se by like overall, but there were things that weren't true. But like we weren't going to do, like Danielle didn't want to do it. I was like, I don't really care one way or another. And they literally sold us. So like, we're going to give you the redemption story. We're going to position you guys as the glue that holds the group together.
Wow. And
we're going to let you plan a party to throw, and we're going to let you pick the theme, and we're going to let you have a say in how it all goes. And then we're going to position you guys as sort of like these are my words, but like the grownups of the group who aren't in the drama anymore. And and they, to their credit, they did. We planned a costume party. We got everyone together for it. And, we're put together in that and presented in a very positive way. Unfortunately, at the end of the episode, there's a card about us getting divorced. So, the momentum didn't really matter. But they do that. Right. And that's how they sold us on it. Was like, this is your redemption story. It's like,
whoa,
it's crazy. It's so many.
Yeah, it is. I'm so curious. I know you've named this that you work in story, and do you feel like your experience here really informed that? Like, do you feel like that came more after this experience, or has it always been something you've been really interested in?
Storytelling has been something, something that if you look at my trajectory of all the things I've wanted to do professionally, it's present in all of them. Most present in wanting to be a filmmaker, ironically. I was writing screenplays at like 12 years old for like full-length movies.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Cool.
When I'm surprised these didn't get dug up, actually, but like I made a couple films that are available on the internet. I was in a couple film festivals in my
that's awesome.
late teens and early 20s. Yeah. Wow. And so I love the idea. And I was just talking to my friend who I made these with 2 nights ago. And I was like, the thing is like, I've realized actually recently is it would always be like, I always want to tell these stories of like real human something, a real human emotion, but it'd be wrapped up in a thriller or a horror movie or something like that. And it was always someone who made very selfish decisions throughout and just like spirals. And it's just very, it's just funny because that storytelling has always been there. And then doing marketing too, your storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Podcasting, your storytelling.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just love it. Yeah.
So cool.
It's such a good way to process through things that you don't have language for. So if, you sharing your story about your mental health and not necessarily knowing how to communicate your emotions, I'm just thinking like that's probably one way that you were able to process things you didn't know that you were even processing in real time,
You're so right. And that was another thing is I went from nobody knows that I have these challenges of being depressed and now the whole world knows. And now I talk about it everywhere. And my dad's like, I like your podcast, but some of those topics you talk about, which is the mental health stuff, It's like,
oh yeah. So interesting. Wow. And how does that feel? Like what is the feeling that comes up when he makes a comment like that?
I have a healthy relationship with my parents.
Yeah.
It's just, I know who they are, and everything that they did came from good intent. And so
of course.
That's his way of saying, I'm proud of you for what you're doing. And I can accept that.
Totally.
That's
totally
awesome.
And it shows, I'm sure, the generational pieces, and Amber and I have talked about this both as mothers of sons, how it is shifting raising sons now and really focusing in on it being celebrated to talk about mental health, talk about emotions, feel your feelings. And so you being able to do that and model for others, and especially for other men who might not have had the experience yet. I mean, you were really thrust into it to have to be so vulnerable and be seen and have all of your stuff out there. But for those that might still be struggling with it, it's so awesome that is what you're doing now.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I do think it's phenomenal. Like, I don't have kids myself, but I think when I look around at like my millennial counterparts raising kids and even my sister, my nephew is in counseling. He's 10 and I can't believe it. I'm like proud of her for doing that. That was definitely going to be something that was difficult. So you seeing things like that and hearing stories about how you guys raise your sons and even daughters too, to feel emotions that aren't irritation and anger is
yeah so important. I also think it's so cool that your dad listens to your podcast regularly. Like that's the cutest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like your dad is what, like in his 60s? Like he's like, I'm listening to your podcast. That's the cutest thing ever. Oh my gosh, shout out to your dad. That's so cool.
My sister, I'm like, how does dad even know what a podcast is, let alone how to listen to one? Someone at work showed him, and there's someone he likes at work that's like my age. That's
cute. That's the cutest thing I've ever heard. I love that.
But now he listens to all sorts of podcasts. He's talking about stuff. I'm like, where'd you hear that? Oh, on this podcast.
Okay, good for him. I love it. That's so great.
Awesome.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
It's such an important conversation. I feel like everybody's going to learn a lot and have so much to take away and a new perspective, I think, on their own relationship to reality TV and really fostering more critical thinking around what you're consuming and what the takeaway is. And one thing that Amber and I like to end on in our show is like just talking about something that is kind of saving your life these days. Like just something that you're using or doing or watching that you're like, this has either brought me joy or this is something that's really helping me lately. And I'm curious what that would be for you, if there's anything.
Oh my God. Do you know what? That's such a good question, because one of the things that I've been working on. So after I went through the horrible time that I talked about, I wrote a guided journal of things that I just started kind of like writing, because I like to write. Started writing and I was like, okay, I'm going to put some structure to this to like make it a habit, right? And so I wrote this guided journal that helped me through that time. And then it also taught me kind of a lot of the normal behaviors that I've started incorporating into my day. And so I was thinking back recently, because now I deal a lot. I started my own marketing consulting business, and I deal with a lot of imposter syndrome when I'm talking to clients for the first time.
Sure.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to start working through some of my imposter syndrome stuff. So I'm like working on a format to do that and doing some research and stuff. So I'm, what's been helping me there is kind of like journaling about imposter syndrome. And I might do another guided journal depending on how this works for me.
So cool.
I love that.
It's been helping.
That is so great. Thank you
for
sharing.
Until the imposter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So needed, because everybody, we all feel it. It's so, it's present all the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
How could we not?
I don't even think we know how often we experience it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
and Megan and I were just talking about that too, about just like when you're doing something new, and especially like starting a business or something like that, it's like, it is so incredibly vulnerable. And you're just like this open wound. That's how I feel like sometimes, like when you're starting something new, it's like, I should be really excited. And like, all I keep thinking is like, suck,
or nobody's going to like this.
Yeah.
That inner critic's a jerk.
Oh yes, so real.
Yep, totally. Well, Amber, what's saving you these days?
What's saving me these days? I wasn't even like prepared for this question today at all.
It's okay.
My sister saved me yesterday. She has my location, and she showed up somewhere that she knew I was going to be under psychological distress in. So it was really sweet. I just look out the window, and my oldest is like, "Is that Auntie Tanya?" And I was like, "That is Auntie Tanya." And she just comes on in, big sistering it up. So that's the first thing that came up from my mind. So shout out to Tanya. She saved my life yesterday. Yes. That was awesome.
Wow. I'm so glad. Oh, that's so nice. Mine is way less meaningful in any way, but it really did save me yesterday. Nick, I am 6 months pregnant right now. You can't see from this angle. Thank you. But I've been starving lately, and I had like the best chicken Caesar wrap yesterday with tater tots on the side, and like I'm still thinking about it. It was that good. So I just wanted to share.
Have it again today.
Yeah, I think I might. Honestly.
Where was it from?
Might as well. So funny and random. It was. I took my son to one of those like train diners where it's called the Junction, where the food comes out on a train.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, there's something that exists like that? That sounds so awesome.
Yes.
Okay, I need to go to one of those.
Nick, I'm actually in the Chicagoland area. I'm out by Naperville.
Yeah.
So that's a thing around here.
My gosh, that sounds so fun.
So I might have to take a drive back or just do a delivery order because it was so good. So that's mine today. Yeah.
Love that. I am for sure going to go there and try that.
Yes. So good. Well, Nick, remind us your podcast title and the foundation, where else people can find you.
Sure. Podcast is Eyes Wide Open with Nick Thompson, anywhere you listen to podcasts, also on YouTube. I also do additional content on YouTube that I don't always post on the podcast. And then for the UCAN Foundation, the UCAN Foundation.org is our website. And you can find me on Instagram at nthompson513, or you can just type my name in and I usually show up right there.
Amazing.
Thanks so much for being on, Nick.
Thank you so
you're
much.
awesome.
My pleasure.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.